The Abzan Armor deck has been revealed today, and with it comes 10 brand new cards, of course 2 face commanders and 8 cards that fall within the colors of white, black, and green. This does look like it's going to be a very interesting deck based on what I've seen from the face commanders that appear to go in 2 very different directions. So we're going to get right into it. If you guys do enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. But here we are, starting off with Baator Ancestor's Voice. It is a legendary spirit dragon that is 2 white, black, green with flying and lifelink, and says at the beginning of your end step, put a number of +1/+1 counters on up to 1 other target creature you control, equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. Return up to 1 target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you lost this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's a really interesting mechanic because it wants both to gain life and to lose life. And obviously it's not like a net amount, so you could lose 7 and gain 7 and you'll be able to trigger both effects, which is obviously nice. You've got white and green, which offer quite a lot in terms of gaining life, and then black is, a lot of cards that require you to either pay life or lose life. So it's not necessarily hard to get this going. I do think, though, that it opens up the door for a lot of, really fun directions in which to take the build, because you could certainly go with counter spam and gain life and try to make it just more one-sided, but then again, you can also do a mixture that'll make it so you can utilize both effects. Though, if I'm being honest, just looking at this on the surface, I do think it's probably better to stick with 1 for the most part. Obviously, this creature has lifelink, so you'll be able to get some counters one way or another, but it's probably going to be more beneficial to focus on if there's ways to, lose life, bring big creatures back, and then obviously gain the life back after. That's going to be the best direction for this guy, but I like him. He's not too expensive as a commander, I don't think. And he seems like he's going to have a ton of potential, just going to depend again on what else we get in the deck. Now, this one I have read already, but we'll go over it together. It's Felothar the Steadfast, 1 white, black, green, legendary creature, human warrior. It says each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have defender. And then you pay 3 and tap it, sacrifice another creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, then discard cards equal to its power. I actually have to say I like this card quite a bit. I think it's very unique. A lot of people have made comparisons to Arcades the Strategist. Arcades is definitely different. He has flying and vigilance, and of course, this does have, a little bit of upside in the sense that, you can get a lot of draw, but Arcades certainly has draw power as well. It just doesn't have to be a creature with defender, so they both have some different, paths in which you can go, but you're kind of trading blue out for black in this case, and I don't know whether or not it's going to be more of a net positive, but I am going to experiment with this. I think it does seem like a solid card, and I think it might actually be a decent enough. I mean, I have Arcades built, but I'm looking at some of this and saying, I wonder if I could maybe transition that a little bit, because I do think blue at times tends to be a bit of a detriment to the deck, and I'm just generally not a huge fan of blue. So I wouldn't say it's objectively better than Arcades, but it does give an entirely different direction to go with a, defender / toughness matters deck, and I like it for that purpose. I think it's pretty cool. Now, for the cards in the actual deck, outside of the 2 face commanders, we have Will of the Abzan. This is a sorcery that costs 3 and a black. Choose 1 or both if you control a commander. Any number of target opponents each sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls and lose 3 life. Or return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Certainly 4 mana to bring a creature back is nothing to sniff at. I know it's not as good as like Reanimate, but still, being able to cast both of these is certainly strong. And the fact that it can be a pseudo, not board wipe, but get rid of the strongest creatures the opponents have and do a little bit of damage in the process, definitely not a bad card. One of the better will cards, in my opinion. Now we've got Arbor Adherent. It is 3 and a green, creature, dog, druid. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, or tap it to add X mana of any 1 color, where X is the greatest toughness among other creatures you control. So certainly not bad as a way to get some mana and some ramp. It does cost 4 to bring out, but I mean, it taps for 4 mana because, among other creatures, sorry, reading is hard. But generally speaking, getting a creature out with high toughness, if the deck is built around that, is not going to be hard to do. You bring out a wall, it's like a 0/5, 0/6, whatever, you can get a good amount of mana, and it's any color, so it does allow you a bit of mana fixing if you need to, especially playing a 3-color deck. It's a pretty cool card across the board, a little high in terms of its mana cost, but I think I'd probably still end up slotting it in just because it does have a lot of benefits. Now, Canopy Gargantuan, I adore this card. It is 5 and 2 green, creature, dragon with flying and ward 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a number of +1/+1 counters on each other creature you control equal to that creature's toughness. So this, obviously, if you're playing creatures that have a lot of toughness, is going to get very, very problematic very quickly. Just thinking of some cards, you know, like Wall of Mist, Wall of Shards, 0/6, you know, so you put 6 +1/+1 counters on it, and then next turn its toughness is going to be 12, so then you put another 12 counter. You're going to keep buffing these creatures up, while also, you know, it's going to buff it's going to buff anything else out as well, minus itself. But I do think this is really cool. I don't know how exactly I make it fit into like Arcades or this, because it is just kind of like, it's 7 mana, pretty steep to get out, but I do think it's probably worth it, especially pivoting to, if I do end up pivoting to the Defender, like with black instead of blue, I do have access to reanimate, animate dead, and stuff like that to maybe cheat this guy out a little bit faster. Just a really, really cool card, though, from a design perspective, and it makes your Defender creatures pretty damn powerful. Jaws of Defeat is 3 and a black enchantment. Whenever a creature you control enters, target opponent loses life equal to the difference between that creature's power and its toughness. Now, this is a really, really good card, too. Just as one example, if you play a card like Wall of Denial, which is like a 0/6, then each opponent loses, your opponent's going to lose 6 life because it has 0 power and 6 toughness. 6 life, you know, I know life in Commander doesn't matter as much, but 6 is still pretty significant. They really are going all out in terms of making Defender a bit more viable here with some of these cards. And I look forward to being able to kind of play and experiment with this. But again, this does seem like an auto-include if you're playing Defender Matters, that's for sure. Protector of the Waste is 4 and 2 white, creature dragon. When it enters or becomes monstrous, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments controlled by different players, and you can make it monstrous for 4 and a white, which of course means it becomes monstrous and gets 3 +1/+1 counters on it. I don't hate that as an ability to basically, you know, remove problematic stuff twice. It's not necessarily amazing within the theme of the rest of the deck, but I do think it's a cool card, and I'm sure that people will find ways to play it. If anything, it's cool to see monstrosity back on a card. Now, Rampart Architect is 3 and a green, creature, elephant, advisor. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, create a 1/3 white wall creature token with Defender. Whenever a creature you control with Defender dies, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. I love this. Obviously, the entering or attacks is solid because you're just getting walls you can do stuff with, but getting a land every time one of your creatures with Defender dies is crazy value, especially with how cheap some of the lands, some of the walls are to play, or anything with Defender. This is probably my favorite card out of this deck, the new cards, and I just think it's a really, really solid card that, like, looks good on paper, but will probably be as good in practice, just based on the fact that it essentially not only creates walls that it can use to then get you more ramp, but if your deck's built around it, you're getting ramp that way too. Reunion of the House is 5 and 2 white sorcery. Return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Return exile Reunion of the House. Again, insane in Defender. You have a ton of creatures that are 0 attack. You can just bring everything back, and then your commander is going to allow them to go off. This is just a good card. I mean, it's got uses otherwise, but Defender is going to be able to maximize this more than anything else. Just because of how, you know, the power restriction is mostly irrelevant. And even if you do have a creature that has Defender but has like 1 or 2 power, it really doesn't matter all that much because you can still bring back a ton of them. So, Tip the Scales is the last one. It's 2 and a black. Sacrifice a creature. When you do, all creatures get -X/-X till end of turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's toughness. Another Toxic Deluge, essentially, except instead of paying life, you sack a creature. Just, again, it's a great card. This is a really, really strong card that I think has some use in a lot of different decks, but here in our Defender Matters deck, this is incredibly strong. You sack a wall, everything gets -6/-6, you know, boom, there you go. Just overall a really, really powerful card. And honestly, I have to say, I'm super impressed. I didn't know how they were going to make this deck work with, you know, Defender being kind of the key elements here, but I think they not only succeeded, I think it's going to be a pretty damn good deck, so I'm going to pre-order it. Certainly, if you're interested, I might recommend doing the same. You know, make sure it's financially within your budget and makes sense, but I do think that the cards in here could end up causing this to be one of the more desired of the 5, and it's certainly my favorite of the 5 so far. So, with that being said, let me know what you guys think of the deck in the comment section down below. If you think there's any cards that maybe I'm thinking are too good or not giving enough credit. As always, I love hearing from everybody, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.